Today I want to discuss the Netflix documentary Return to Space. Now, this documentary is not nearly as good, not nearly as fascinating, not nearly as riveting as the last one that I mentioned here, the one about Jimmy Savile. I can't remember the exact title of that one, something like an English horror story. This is not in the same ballpark as far as it's hard to say entertainment, because I wouldn't say the Jimmy Savile one was necessarily entertaining, but it was riveting. It was definitely something that kept you watching with avid interest. So maybe in a way, even though the subject matter is horrifying, there is an entertainment component to it. But this documentary is far less interestingly made, and far less well made. But I would say that it's interesting in a sort of meta way, as far as not so much looking at it and examining it for what it is, but for what the reasons why it has been made. What purpose is it meant to serve for its viewers? Because there are a few things that really stood out to me about it. As you know, I've registered some skepticism about this entire Mars project, which our Elon has taken on really, as his own. Now I know Elon is like he's like the red-pilled based oligarch of all of them. I know he's got this reputation. I mean, my tendency is to think, that he's you've got good cops and bad cops, and he's one of the good cops, but still furthering the same kind of cause as the bad cops that he seems to be opposing on an oligarchical level. With his take the red pill and yay Canadian truckers and these other tweets that definitely go against the mainstream, and his recent activity of buying out Twitter, and maybe making Twitter a little less insufferable than it is. Who knows? Best of luck to him for that. Hope he gets that done. But I am very dubious about this entire notion of, well, we need to become a multi-planetary race. It's just incumbent upon us to start living on other planets, because if we just live here, then something happens to Earth, we're dead. Whereas if we move to other planets, then something happens to Earth, then we'll still have human beings populating other planets, and that's why it's so necessary for us to become multi-planetary. I mean, it's like there's been, we've lived on Earth for how many thousands of years now. The whole idea, I mean, and it's always been a possibility that something catastrophic could happen to take us all out, but it's never really been, I don't know, there's something about using that as an impetus to want to have us also live somewhere else, on another planet, that's just seems a little screwy, seems a little arbitrary. I believe there are other reasons why this Mars thing is happening, why this Mars op is a poppin' right now, and I don't have as much to say about that right now in this particular video. What I do want to talk about in this video is how, and I think this is the second video kind of like this that's been on Netflix. I know there have been a few about travel to Mars, and there was one that was like an actual drama where they had a crew going to Mars, and it was all about their experiences while making this voyage. But there was also another documentary that was made, I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, which was also about SpaceX and Elon Musk and his efforts. But this particular documentary focuses almost exclusively on the SpaceX launches of the 2 astronauts who and the rocket taking them to the International Space Station, and then them getting back safely. Now, I know there are probably people out there who think that who are flat earthers, who think space is fake. There are probably people out there who think the ISS is a fraud, and so forth, or who think we never actually went to the moon, or we never left low Earth orbit. As far as the latter goes, there are a couple of little tantalizing things that this documentary does throw at you in a very subtle way, and just a couple in the form of a couple of off-the-cuff statements. But I don't want this to be what I'm saying is, I'm not no offense towards those who believe those things, and no offense towards those who don't believe those things. I don't want this to be about the debate of what's really up there versus what really isn't up there. What struck me more, or what I want to talk about more, is what I think the way in which this video functions as propaganda. This documentary really plays on, I suppose what I'm trying to say is, this is a very surprisingly shameless documentary, insofar as it really does its best to play on your emotions. It's like they try to get the characters, whether it's the astronauts or themselves or their wives, or Elon Musk or somebody else involved with the operation. They try to get them to talk about the dangers as much as they can, to say, well, this is really a dangerous thing because this could happen or that could happen, and we had this happen to the Challenger back in 1986, and they actually go back and show the launch of the Challenger and the Challenger exploding, and the people who are watching it take off, suddenly their faces change to expressions of dismay and horror, and then they also show the other space shuttle that blew up, whose name I don't recall. It's I guess not quite as notorious of a moment, and it came a lot later, but they really dwell on these tragedies from the past, and they dwell they get the people to talk about, I'm glad I'm doing this, but I know there are dangers, and yes, there are dangers, and we're afraid that this could happen, that could happen. They dwell heavily on the weather, like they're set to go, and then suddenly the launch gets delayed because there's a storm on its way, and so they have to put off the launch for a few more days, and it's like that just all reinforces this, it's all so dangerous, and I'm wringing my hands, my palms are sweating, and some of that, of course, there's something inherent about showing space travel that is going to get you, thinking or feeling those kinds of things, feeling that kind of anxiety. But they actually have these astronauts themselves and their wives talk about, who are also astronauts, of course, because it's not a male province exclusively anymore, you sexist pig. But it's only the men who are going this time. Their astronaut wives are staying behind. So they actually get their wives to say things like, I'm so anxious. I just feel like I just can't concentrate. I can't focus. I can't think. It's like they want us to. It's not surprising that they would be feeling these kinds of things, but the documentary, really wants to just drag us in and make us feel anxious. Okay. So we're anxious watching them go up, and then they make it, and we're relieved, kind of. I mean, I was never that invested in it. I knew that it happened. I knew that it went off without a hitch. So I never felt, that kind of real anxiety if it were happening contemporaneously. So we see them go to the space station, and then the day they come back, it's like, oh, all these things could happen. Actually, coming back is more dangerous than going there. And again, the danger of it all, the anxiety that everybody's feeling, and all of that. It's like they're just trying to soap opera-ize this entire thing as much as possible. And so that's very interesting. Like they really want us to get caught up in the feeling of, I guess, triumphing over the possibility of tragedy, triumphing over our fears. But there's something that just feels very unnatural about making these people who are so close to this event, making them talk about these things that, trust me, it's like every time I get on an airplane, I'm not gonna. I mean, I know there are things going on in the back of my head, but I'm not gonna say, yeah, we could crash. Yeah, I'm a little afraid. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna think that. I'm not gonna. If somebody wants to have a conversation with me and ask me how anxious I feel, I'm not gonna dwell on that. So because it's so unhelpful when you actually are feeling anxious, you want something to get your mind off of your anxiety, and having people make you focus on it and make you tell them about it in great detail, or at least in moderate detail. That seems really strange. That's a strange aspect of this documentary. And so we see Elon, with a lot of emotion. We see him, really get frustrated. We see him just when things go well, he's just ecstatic. And so there's this effort to humanize him, to make him into this sort of, and trust me, the old time, space flights in the 60s and in the 70s, they did, these guys, say what you will about them, these old white guys that NASA employed back then, but they kept their cool all the time, no matter what, and there was no dwelling on, if this happened, that would be a tragedy. If that happened, it would be really scary. I'm so anxious right now. That was not part of the old culture, but it's like they're trying to in a way to feminize this whole experience, instead of it being about guys who are precision and good at their jobs, and they get up there and they got the right stuff and they do their thing. And now it's about these are vulnerable people who are taking incredible risks and doing these things that are really quite dangerous. Now, towards the end of the documentary, there are a couple of things. One person talks about how he really sees that this new kind of technology is something that can help us get beyond low Earth orbit, and and going eventually to the moon again and to Mars. And something sticks in one's craw about that, about hearing this guy say, "Oh yeah, well this we have the secrets now, or we're getting closer to finding the secrets to getting out of low Earth orbit," because again, believing the official story, and I don't spend much time talking about my opinions about the moon landings because I don't really know that much, but there's something strange about saying, implying we didn't know about getting out of low Earth orbit until just now. How did they go to the moon three times, 4 times without knowing how to get out of low Earth orbit with the technology that they had in 1969, and now with this much more advanced technology in 2022? They're still trying to figure that out. That's something that that's some cognitive dissonance there. And finally, close to the very end of this documentary, Elon himself says this. This is not verbatim, but it's close to verbatim. He says, We used to know how to get to the moon, but then we forgot. We used to know how to get to the moon, but we forgot. How do you forget? And I don't. I mean, if you ask me, how does one get to the moon? Of course, I'm not going to be able to tell you, right? But if they put their heads together, the finest minds, in this country, put their heads together, scientific minds in this country and also from Nazi Germany, like Werner von Braun and his guys, his men that were taken out of Nazi Germany and plugged into the space program, as we all know. If back then they figured out how to do it, you're telling me they didn't have a way of recording that, of getting it down after they sent 3 or 4 missions, I can't remember exactly how many there were, to the moon. Men walked on the moon several times. How are we supposed to believe that was just forgotten? But that's said very directly, and once again, cognitive dissonance kicks in. What does Elon mean when he says we knew how to get to the moon back then, but we forgot? It just doesn't seem like that's. I mean, once they built the automobile, did they forget how to make another one? Once they found the cure for they found that penicillin cures a bunch of diseases. Did they forget how to manufacture penicillin? It just doesn't seem like things worked that way at all. How do you forget? How do you forget how to do something that you did 40 something years ago? How do you just forget? It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not saying that as someone who has promoted, moon hoax theories, because it's just not my bag. But these kinds of statements are odd. And of course, again, there's lots of questions about why Mars. Elon himself says by a certain time we should have a city on Mars. He uses the word city. He wants to settle there. He wants to have a colony there. Others have said we should visit, but not. It's not so much about colonizing or living there. But he said he wants a city there. Why are we going? Why are we going? However far it is through space even though it's the next closest planet. It's still a long way away. Why do that? And again, I'm a sci-fi person, so I don't have any objections to it on an imaginative level. But what's the cost-benefit analysis there? People like Gigi Young and Dark Journalist and others, they have their own theories and ideas about why this Mars op has been kicked into high gear lately. Apparently, Wernher von Braun wrote a book where he predicted that the Mars project in the future would be led by a man named Elon. I mean, lots of weird stuff there. Lots of weird things. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Return to Space, the Netflix documentary. Let me know what you think below. Thanks for watching.